Hate to do it, folks, but this legalese stuff just keeps creeping into sports, shapes every aspect of college sports, so we've got to talk about it. UT's always at the center of it. Recently, the state legislature put forth a bill that Governor Lee has already signed, and here's what one sports attorney had to say about it. Tennessee now has the most athlete-friendly NIL law. It appears to prohibit all of the House settlements limits on NIL compensation, salary cap, collective restrictions, etc., unless they're part of a federal law, valid court order, or determined to be exempt from antitrust law. Now, the House settlement's the big thing that everybody's been looking forward to, and praying comes quickly because it would bring revenue sharing, and that's the great savior for college sports, the House settlement. Well, the state of Tennessee went out and nuked it before it started, or at least that's the view. Take a look here at this website. Bro Bible says Tennessee legislature quietly nukes NCAA House settlement with new law circumventing restrictions.
I don't know what's so funny. It's a great website.
All right. Yeah. I saw that popped up, and I'm like, I got to get Bro Bible in here. All right. I'm there every day. All right. So, Ryan, I'll let you start. You cover recruiting. Does this go kablooey to the entire House settlement?
Not the entire thing, because there are parts of this that it doesn't touch as much. You know, the 105-man roster essentially that you're trying to put into effect. There are other aspects of it that still aren't directly touched by this bill, but there are some things that everyone I've talked with has assumed are going to be challenged in court immediately, and this is going at the main things, which are kind of dumb, honestly. Imposing a $600 limit on anything that's done as an NIL deal and saying anything above that has to go through a clearinghouse. Who's determining the clearinghouse? Why are we even doing a clearinghouse?
The first person to get kicked back by the clearinghouse is just going to sue.
So it's a poor attempt, is what it is, to regulate this. And everybody, I think not everybody, a lot of people outside this state certainly have been hoping that this would regulate things, especially the states that are home to schools that are kind of getting their teeth kicked in or not as good at NIL. They're looking at this, please, House settlement, save us, when really the whole thing is kind of built on a house of cards because it's based on stuff like this, an arbitrary limit that allows some third party to regulate what's allowed and what's not. So no one wants to go through an intermediary period where you're like, what can we do?
Yeah.
Are our hands tied? So
Yeah.
no one wants to do that. So this is trying to pull that back.
Well, the other problem is you've got the bigger issue that we've talked about here. You've talked about on the radio show. We've talked about on the TV show a million times. You've basically got a salary cap. You can share $20.5 million. It will take 20 seconds for the first guy who doesn't get the money he wants to get his lawyer and go and say, we didn't collectively bargain this.
It's illegal.
How are you giving a salary cap? And then the House settlement's out. But I thought it would at least come to be, maybe, before it was undercut. Tyler, your thoughts on the state legislature jumping the gun here and making sure it's wounded before it's wounded coming out of the gate?
I totally get where our listeners and your viewers are coming from, because it feels like we continuously get branches on branches of this giant endless tree. But as I always tell Will, and thank goodness Will's on our show who can actually try to in some way explain this to me. He has to translate it for me. It just is another opportunity to kick the can down the road, and we're not at the end of what this is. So either make them employees or don't make them employees. Let's stop cheating and putting in a Nintendo cheat code to say, here's how we're going to defeat and get to where we're going. Get to the finish line, and let's stop talking about this. But I understand, because it at least helps provide radio guys with content May, June, and July. But this is where we are.
I just don't think the people at home enjoy the content. It's my take. I've yet to talk to anybody who said, hey, I enjoyed you talking about the third string linebackers, but man, could you tell us more of the business side of it? I don't like doing it. I've not talked to anybody who seems to like that kind of stuff, and yet you can't not talk about it. It's driving everything. Will, your thought on, you didn't believe this thing was going to hit and last anyway. The thoughts on the state legislature coming out beforehand and surprising everybody with this announcement that, hey, this is done. And everybody in the country's like, what, huh?
Well, we knew that 11 states were looking at doing something like this, but of course Tennessee is the one that does it first.
Always.
And beats everyone to the punch.
Always.
It always works that way. Look, it's an illegal salary cap. To me, this is on the universities. You know you can't do this. You can't just break the law with the salary cap and then the clearinghouse. They've known that it was illegal. They keep trying to do it. I don't understand why they keep going down this road of things that we know aren't going to work. And to me, it rug pulls the fan. Like, the fan deserves better than, no, this is what we're going to do now. No, we're not, because someone sued, or a state legislature at 11:30 at night passed a bill saying, nope, you're not going to do that. But for whatever reason, the NCAA and the college presidents and the conferences keep trying to break the law with setting things up that have to be collectively bargained if you want to set a salary cap on someone.
What this tells me is that we're still a really long way from bringing order to this situation. Because whatever you say or do, House settlement, so Tennessee's got a bill against it, somebody else comes up with something else, somebody else is going to fight that. I don't think we're close. I think we're into this quagmire for several more years.
But don't we all know the law? Like at this point,
Yeah,
we
but
all
okay.
know what the law is. Just stop
But
trying to
you
break
have
the law.
I don't know. That's pretty strong, in my opinion. To say I don't think
gotta-
they're going to drag him to jail.
We got a judge
No,
overseeing a
You're
settlement.
violating,
I
you're
think-
violating
yeah.
labor laws.
I think the gist is, well, if everybody agreed to it, they wouldn't until somebody sued it. The problem is you have schools that don't want to share the TV money. They could make them employees tomorrow. You also have the question of do the players want to be employees? Jimmy, you've talked to somebody who said they don't want to be because then they get taxed.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'd make more money after taxes with the increase from TV revenue than they do now without their taxes. But you've got both sides of that have to agree that we want this. The problem with the whole deal is you're having to retrofit everything. You're trying to plug holes that have been sitting there for hundreds of years, and now everybody's saying, well, wait, we're changing the paradigm. Well, let's just fix it. You can't fix all this stuff. It should have been, you can't fix this boat. You need a new boat. That's the problem. And nobody can agree what the new boat is.
And this is why Danny White, when we spoke with him at the Big Orange Caravan a couple weeks ago, was not confident that the House settlement was going to fix everything. Because they all know there are weaknesses in this entire idea.
Well, he had to have known this was coming. I'm
And-
guessing the
and-
state legislature
Yeah,
didn't act
they
with
knew
UT's.
they knew to Will's point that a bunch of states are working on stuff like this. You know, the Arkansas that we talked about before, the thing they did with tax free for athletes.
Tax-free.
Everyone's trying to undercut everything and make everything as
Convenient
good-
for the local schools.
as good as for them as possible compared to other schools across the country. So it's going to continue down that road, and as long as that's the case, it's not the Wild West, but pretty close to it.
Can down the road more and more.
Yeah.
Let me know when we get there.